Imagine you're standing in your living room on a sunny day and a thin ray of light sneaks in through the window. You pause and suddenly you see it. Thousands of tiny particles dancing in that beam, swirling, floating, almost as if they are alive. You wave your hand, they scatter, but they don't really go away. Now, here is the uncomfortable truth. You are breathing those particles in every second. That invisible dance of dust is one of the quietest, most underestimated contributors to air pollution all around us. Welcome to today's episode, where we are going to unpack a deceptively simple question: why does dust remain suspended in the air? And how does that turn into air pollution? By the end of this episode, you will look at a dusty road, a construction site, or even the sunbeam in your room very differently. You'll understand not just what is happening, but why it happens, and what it means for your lungs, your city, and your choices. So let's dive in. What exactly is dust in the air? Let's start with the basics. When we say dust, most people imagine a layer of grey fluff on top of a shelf you haven't cleaned in a weeks. But in the context of air pollution, dust is part of what scientists call particulate matter. Think of particulate matter as a huge family of tiny particles floating in the air. Some are solid, some are liquid, and some are complex mix of both. Dust is usually made of things like soil, tiny bits of rock, pollen, pieces of skin and fabric filler fibers, ash, unburned carbon, even tiny fragments of metals from vehicle brakes and tires. Scientists usually group these particles by their size. You'll often hear two terms: PM10, which are particles smaller than 10 micrometers in diameter, PM2.5, particles smaller than 2.5 micrometers of a hair's thickness, and PM2.5 is about 25 to 30 times smaller than a human hair. That's so small you can't even see individual particles with the naked eye, only the collective effect like a haze. Not all particulate matters is dust in the traditional sense, but a major portion of what we casually call dust in the air falls into this PM10 and PM2.5 range. And this size you'll see is the key to why it stays up there so long. Now the question remains, why doesn't dust just falls down? For the heart of the mystery, if dust is made of matter and gravity pulls everything down, why doesn't all the dust just settle on the ground? To understand this, imagine dropping a big stone versus dropping a tiny feather. The stone falls straight down, it's heavy, gravity dominates. The feather, on the other hand, flutters, drifts, and can even be carried around by the slightest air movement. Dust particles are like microscopic feathers. Here is the main reason they stay suspended. First is size and mass, the lightness effect. Very small particles have extremely low mass. That means the pull of gravity on each particle is tiny. At the same time, the air itself isn't empty. It's made of molecules constantly moving and colliding. At small scales, the drag force from air, even random jostling by air molecules, becomes significant compared to gravity. So the particles' settling velocity, how fast they tend to fall, is very, very low. For particles in PM2.5 range, this settling speed is so small that even very gentle air currents can keep them up for hours, days, or in some cases even weeks, especially if they get carried into high layers of the atmosphere. Second is turbulence, the invisible mixer. Think about a busy city street, cars moving, buses braking, people walking, wind swirling between buildings. All this creates turbulence, irregular, chaotic motion of air. Even indoor fans, air conditioner, people walking, and doors opening and closing create small gusts and swirls. These turbulent eddies constantly pick up dust from surface and keep them pushing existing dust around. Instead of giving dust a chance to calmly sink down under gravity, the air is like a washing machine, always churning, always mixing. As a result, dust is repeatedly lifted, nudged, and kept afloat. Third, atmospheric layers and trapping. The atmosphere is not just one uniform block of air, it has layers with different temperatures and densities. Usually, air is warmer near the surface, cooler higher ups, which allows warm air and with it pollutants to rise, mix, and disperse. But sometimes the opposite happens. A layer of cooler air gets trapped near the ground and warmer layer sitting above it. This is called a temperature inversion. When that happens, vertical mixing is suppressed. Cooler air below cannot rise easily, and the pollutants, including dust, get trapped near the surface. They remain suspended and accumulate, especially during early mornings or winter in many cities. So, three forces team up: tiny particle size, constant turbulence, and occasionally atmospheric lids like inversion. Together, they explain why dust doesn't simply fall away and leave us with clean air. Now, where does all this dust comes from? We know why dust can stay in the air. Next question is, where is it coming from the first place? We can divide sources into two broad categories: natural and human made. Natural resource. Nature itself is a powerful generator of dust. Deserts, dry soils, in arid regions, strong winds can lift fine dust and soil into the air, creating dust storms that travel hundreds, even thousands of kilometers. Even if you live far from a desert, you can occasionally experience dusty skies when such plumes move overhead. Dry agricultural land. Fields that are plowed or left bare without vegetation are easily eroded by wind, especially in dry seasons. That loose soil becomes airborne dust. Volcanic activities and wildfires. Volcanic eruption releases ash and fine particles high into the atmosphere. Wildfires generate huge amount of smoke and fine ash, which are essentially particulate matter. Sea salt and biological particles. Over oceans, breaking wave generates tiny droplets that dry out and become sea salt particles. Plants, fungi, and other organisms also shed pollen, spores, and fragments that join the mix in the air. That was all natural. Let's move to human made resources. Human activities have dramatically increased dust and particulate levels, especially around cities and industrial areas, such as road dust, traffic. So every time a vehicle moves, its tires, brakes, and the friction between the tire and the road surface grinds tiny particles off. These particles plus soil and debris already on the road are thrown into the air as vehicle passes. This is called resuspended road dust. Construction and demolition is another cause, such as cutting, drilling, breaking, moving material like concrete bricks, soil generation, huge clouds of dust. Without control measures, all these particles can easily spread into nearby neighborhoods. Next, we have is industrial processes. From industries, we get cement plants, mining, stone crushing, various manufacturing operations. All these can release mineral dust, metal particles, and other fine particulate matters. Agriculture and unpaved roads are also major contributors. Tractors and machineries moving over dry fields or vehicles on unpaved rural roads create dust plumes that can travel with the wind. Even our domestic activities, such as sweeping floor, dusting furniture, shaking rugs, burning biomass for cooking or heating, add to indoor and sometimes outdoor dust levels. The key idea is that modern life constantly disturbs and creates fine particles, and the atmosphere then takes over as a transport system, keeping many of them suspended. From floating dust to air pollution. So far, dust might sound like an engineering or physics curiosity. Tiny particles, turbulences, inversions. Interesting. But why should anyone care beyond a passing scientific interest? Because once dust is in the air and stays there, it becomes a key component of air pollution and a very real consequences. First and foremost is health impact. Our respiratory system is not designed to handle a continuous overload of fine particles. And this is what happens. For larger particles, say above PM10, these tend to get trapped in nose and throat. They can be irritating, but are often expelled by sneezing, coughing, or via our mucus. PM10 can travel deeper into the respiratory tract and deposit in the bronchi and upper lungs. Long-term exposure is linked with chronic bronchitis and other lung conditions. PM 2.5 is the real villain. These ultrafine particles are so small that they can reach the deepest parts of our lungs, and some can pass into the bloodstream. Once there, they can contribute to inflammation, worsen asthma, increase the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and aggravate existing heart and lung diseases. For vulnerable groups such as children, elderly people, and anyone with asthma or cardiovascular disease, high dust levels are especially dangerous. Even healthy adults can experience reduced lung function and symptoms like coughing, irritation, difficulty breathing, and when exposed to high particulate levels for a exposed over the period of time. It also reduces visibility and quality of life. Dust and fine particles scatter light, and then there's a lot of them in the air. They reduce the visibility, create haze, washed out appearance in the sky. For big cities, distant buildings look blurry, and horizon is no longer crisp. This haze isn't just an aesthetic problem, it's a visible sign that air is loaded with particles small enough to enter our lungs. If you ever felt your eyes burn, your throat feel rough on a hazy day, that's dust and particulate pollution at work. All of this also contribute to environmental and economic effects. Dust doesn't just affect humans, it eventually settles. It can coat the leaves of plant, reducing photosynthesis by blocking sunlight and clogging the tiny pores on the leaf surface. It can even alter the soil chemistry if it carries metals or other pollutants. Dirty building surfaces, solar panels, infrastructure results in increasing cleaning and maintenance costs. In some regions, dust pollution can lower crop yield, damage sensitive ecosystem, and even reduce the efficiency of solar energy systems by covering panels with fine layer of particles. So what we started as a harmless dust in sunbeam turns out to have a deep health, environmental, and economic implications. Now, why dust hangs around in some places more than others? If dust can stay suspended almost anywhere, why do some cities like Delhi or Mumbai? These are the regions which suffer so much compared to other cities. There are few factors interacting here. First is climate and weather. Dry climates with little rainfall and strong winds are naturally more prone to dust. And when there is no moisture to hold soil together, no rain to wash particles out of the air, dust naturally builds up easily. On the other hand, with the regions where there is regular rain, it helps to clean the air by capturing dust in the raindrops, bringing particles down to the ground. Humid conditions can also make some particles clump together and settle faster. Temperature inversions, especially in winter, trap pollutants closer to the ground. Cities in valleys or basins are particularly vulnerable because the surrounding geography can hold cooler air in places like a land use and urban planning. Areas with bare soil, unpaved roads, ongoing construction, sparse vegetation tend to generate more dust. If you combine that with the heavy traffic and industries and then add weather conditions that favors trapping pollutants, you get persistent dust pollution. Green spaces and vegetation act as natural dust filters. Leaves can capture particles. Plant roots help hold soil together, reducing erosion. That's one reason why urban planners increasingly promote green belts, tree planting, and ground cover in cities. What can we do about it? What can be done about it? Now, the practical part. If dust can stay suspended so easily, are we helpless? Not at all. While we can't control every aspect of the atmosphere, there are concrete ways to reduce dust emissions and limit our exposure. At the city and industry levels, some of the effective strategies have been to have a better road maintenance, paving unpaved roads, repairing potholes, using proper road cleaning methods, All these can significantly cut the road dust. Water sprinkling is sometimes used, but if done poorly, it can just create mud and then more dust. More sustainable methods and good drainage are equally important. Next is construction control. Covering material piles, using dust barriers or nets, enforcing on site speed limits for vehicles, and using water sprays or vacuum systems when cutting or grinding can drastically reduce dust leaving construction sites. Industrial filtration. Installing and maintaining filters, electrostatic precipitators, and dust collectors on industrial chimneys and equipment helps capture particles before they enter the wider atmosphere. We can also have green buffers. Planting trees and shrubs along road and around industrial zone create a living barrier that can trap some of the dust and improve local air quality over time. At the community and individual level, individual person or neighborhoods can also take few steps, such as avoiding unnecessary open dust sources. For example, not sweeping dry outdoor areas aggressively. Instead, using slightly damp method or proper equipment can reduce how much dust enters the air. Indoor air quality can be improved using good ventilation, high quality filters in air conditioner or air purifiers, and wet mopping instead of dry sweeping. All these can reduce indoor dust levels. Behavior during high dust days also impacts equally. On days when air quality is particularly bad, limiting intense outdoor exercises, especially near busy roads or construction, can reduce how much particulate matter you inhale. While these tips won't eliminate dust, nature and physics won't allow that. They can reduce how much is generated and how intensely we are exposed. Now, to bring all this together, let's zoom out and connect the dots. Dust in the air is not just dirt floating around. It's a complex mixture of tiny particles from soil, building, vehicles, industries, plants, and even our own daily activities. These particles are so small and light that gravity has a surprisingly weak grip on them. Turbulent air and certain atmospheric conditions like temperature inversion act as an invisible elevator, constantly lifting and holding them up. Once suspended, these particles become a core component of air pollution, affecting our lungs, our heart, our crops, our visibility, even our city's economics. Some of this dust is natural and always have been part of Earth's system, but human activity has intensified the problem, especially around growing urban and industrial centers. The next time you see that beam of light with tiny specks swirling around, remember you are looking at miniature version of a global phenomenon. Behind that simple visual lies a story of physics, weather, urban planning, and public health. And perhaps, most importantly, it's a story we still have the power to influence through smarter design, better policies, and more conscious daily choices. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you found this explanation helpful and it changed the way you think about something as ordinary as dust, consider sharing this with someone who's ever complained about bad air without really knowing what that means. Until next time, breathe a little more mindfully. Stay curious about the invisible world around you. Thank you.